As you can appreciate, the hospital, it moved on from a convalescent to a maternity hospital. Like there were several such buildings in the county, and they deemed it that ladies should go to hospital for give birth, unless it was home birth. And I was born at Royal Gwent, cesarean, and my mother and I were sent to Cefn Island to convalesce. And Father thought that was a good idea because he could pop down in his wellies to see his newborn son, which did, but I dare say he put his shoes on. It was always a thing because our fields were either side of the drive, to see empty brandy bottles, whatever, whiskey bottles, as jubilant fathers were going back home, having wetted their son or daughter's heads, I think. There was two gardens there, Jack York and Tom Pardon, and they used to maintain the gardens. Everything was kept in order, the tennis courts were kept in order, but very few people used the tennis courts. I think my sister and I had more fun out of playing on the tennis courts than anyone, but we used to sneak down there. I dare say they seen us down there, but they knew we were the kids from the farm, so I think so nothing was said. Jack and Tom, they had a room which I surmise was the tack room, and that was where they had their mid-morning break and their lunch break. And for sister and I, it was quite an intrigue. We'd go over there, and Jack and Tom, they were always good to us kids, sort of thing. If there's some peas there, they say, "Oh, go on and have some peas," sort of thing. But unknown to them, because we knew when they finished work, we knew where the key was cutched in the wall by the door, and we'd go in there and have a little rummage round. We weren't pilfering, we just like the intrigue of doing something we shouldn't be doing, but it was always well kept, I must say. It was a well-sited garden, it was a walled garden, and there was a greenhouse which was heated by coal, from my memory. We used to rent the orchard off the hospital. Father used to supply them with milk. We used to take down to the hospital, into the kitchen at the back of the hospital. Usually a bit of banter. I must say one of the people that used to work for Father, Lawrence Davis, who I must say a youngster like that, I must say was always, seeing the nurses sort of thing. There are those sort of stories, but I was too young to know about things like that.
Well, I suppose my first impression was inside. When I went inside, and I like to explore a bit, and I went into this room. I don't know if this was the first day or whenever. I went into this room, and there were these huge windows. It was empty. There was a bit of a staging on the right of the door, and there was a grand piano there. It was empty, the room, apart from this grand piano. So this must have been cleared, ready, except for the piano, for the beds, for the ward. And I can remember having to report to the matron. I had to find her. And I found her down in the basement or in a cellar, and she had a mop and a bucket and little wellies, and she was cleaning the floor. And her name was Matron Lyons. And I can't remember what she said, but she was very tall, thin, she looked like a battle axe, but she was very nice otherwise. But as far as I know, I was the first one there from Pontypool as part of our training. And my home was in Lydart. So I can remember getting my bike, going to the station in Pontypool, and loading my bike on the train and getting off in Usk station to use my bike to go back and forth. And I used to use the shortcut, and that was across the fields, down the side of the hill where the wood is, and down to the industrial area in Usk. Of course, the other memory I had when I had my own children. I had 2 of my own children there. And that was in 1961 and 1955. And I was in that room with the big windows. And my bed was facing the big windows. It was beautiful. Yes, yeah.
I did my general nursing in Bristol, and then I went to London for my midwifery, and then my second part midwifery I did in Bristol. So this included Barton Hill, which was quite a rundown area in parts. They were knocking down the houses and people were going into council houses. So Call the Midwife is very realistic to me. Then I decided I'd come back to my hometown, so I got a job as a staff nurse at the Royal Gwent. And one day matron asked me if I would go to a small hospital outside Usk because they were so short of midwives. And I thought it was the back of beyond. I'd never heard of it. Anyway, I went there and I worked there for a fortnight. And I was getting married quite soon. And I really enjoyed it there, so I asked if I could come back as a part-time nurse when I was married. Well, after I'd been married a month or two and I hadn't gone back to work, I had a message through the grapevine to say, matron's wondering if you really do want a job out there. So I went back and I worked 3 days a week for 3 weeks and then 3 nights a week for the 4th week. Having just got married, I'd never cooked in my life, and I really appreciated the home cooking there. And on a Sunday morning, they had a large joint of meat, and one of the jobs used to be to put the meat in the oven at 5 o'clock in the morning, with instructions from the cook, of course. But she also made beautiful apple sponges. I do remember the sweet apple sponge and custard, so I asked her for the recipe because I was just learning to cook then. I was very happy when I was working there.
It was January the 19th I went in because I realised that the baby was due, and Alan took me over to Cefn, and I had Patrick then, he was 4. And we went there, got there, and it was quite a hectic ride, you know. And as soon as I got there then, Alan and Patrick, they just went. They didn't, you know, they just said, oh, leave your wife here. And so they went then, and that was on the Sunday. And then throughout the night, you know, I was going into labour, and they were all very nice, all the midwives and that, and Nicholas was born about 6 o'clock on Monday morning then, and of course he had quite a difficult birth. He had the cord around his neck, so they had to whip him off and give him the kiss of life, and then I didn't see him then because they had to take him into where all the other babies were, and I just went back into the ward then, and I remember being sort of very talkative and everything, telling everybody about it. And the nurse came up to me and she said, now come on, you've got to have your rest now, go to sleep. So that's what happened then, you know, until the next day when I saw Nick. He's become Nicholas Wire of the Manic Street Preachers. So whether it was Cefn that did that, you never know. It could have been, couldn't it? He was meant for better, you know, great things.
I was about 17. Ignorant, really. Yes, and then we had a bad winter then in '63, and we eventually got up there to be in work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and got dressed and on uniform and started work then. Yes, and the split shifts was from 8 till 1 and then from 4 till 8. First of all, we had to help get the babies bathed. And not the little baths, but it's the metal stainless steel, so they always had to be cleaned after every morning. The one sister, Sister Pritchard, the assistant matron, without us knowing, she would always go upstairs and she'd put her finger across the tops of the ledge of the doors, and then she'd look at her finger and she'd say, come downstairs and say, who was upstairs this morning cleaning? And perhaps this person would say, well, I did, sister. Well, you didn't make a very good job of it, did you? So after that, everybody made sure they did all they dusted everywhere. And that was between seeing to the babies and the mothers. They had to stay in for 10 days, normally 10 days after the birth. So by the time they went home, then hopefully they got used to the routine on the babies, because sometimes if they were crying, they'd be all nursing them, and the sister said, no, they can't be crying all the time. They only cry when they're hungry or when they need changing. So things have changed now. Yes. There was this nurse there, and she always taught the new mums how to bath the babies and get them ready then for the rest of the day. And they would always went to, babies went back after lunch, so was into the nursery, so as the parents could, or the mother, would always they would lie on their tummies with a pillow under to help to flatten their tummies. Well, a lot of the vegetables were out of the garden, the walled garden, and my mother-in-law used to work as the assistant cook. And then when the other lady retired, my mother-in-law then took over, which for about 15 years. Yes, all the stuff was fresh, never ever frozen. Well, we didn't have frozen stuff then. No, she never had recipes, books. Whatever was in the store cupboard was used. So yes, it was my most enjoyable time in my life up there, I think. Sometimes I'd stay up there if I didn't have transport back home. Then I would take a book and go down in the dingle and read my book in the afternoon. Lovely, lovely it was.
I was in the fire service in Usk for 32 years, and a particular night of Cefn fire, I'd been working night shift in the steelworks in Newport, and I was driving home probably about 7:30 in the morning, and I could see the glow of the fire. Didn't know what it was then, but my alerter went off before I got to Usk. So when I came to Usk, I went straight to the fire station and then up to Cefn to the fire. Very, very difficult because there's such a big building. Quite a few fire appliances in the end turned up, but we were very, very short of water. The only place we could get water was from an underground tank in the farm, which is up above where the hospital was. And unfortunately it didn't last very long, the amount of water we had. No other water anywhere near there, so it was a very, very difficult fire. Just gutted the building in the end. Very, very sad.
I came to Cefn for the birth of my daughter on the 13th of December 1955, and I was here for the birth, I was here for Christmas, and I was also here for my birthday, the 29th of December. And then my husband used to come out and visit me every night from Cwmbran, and we didn't have no car, so I think he had to walk. And sometimes there was another man and he used to give him a lift. And on Christmas Day they came out and they both got a bit tipsy. It's 60 years, it'll be 60 years in December since I've been here. It was lovely out here, really lovely. So, fabulous experience, and I'm glad I came today. I'm just so grateful I can come out here, and I'm over the moon for it. I'm over the moon, especially to bring my daughter as well. Lovely.
He's got a card
World
from when he
famous
was here for a birth card.
Oh my word.
That's all, Mum.
Oh, good heavens. Oh, they've even got baby written on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
So you came here because you saw the advert in the paper?
That's how it started off.
Super,
and then
yeah.
I talked to somebody that lives in Esk in work.
Yeah.
And then I told Chris I took the cutting out and showed you the cutting, and it just went from there.
Yeah.
Then I started to hear about how he was doing the gardens, doing it up, tidying it up, you know.
Well, the arboretum hasn't had any planting in it at all, I don't think, for about 150 years. So a nice avenue of taihakus.
I remember going out to explore the garden and the colours, the rhododendrons. Well, I was gobsmacked really because it was huge.
I can remember the trees, looking out of windows and the trees and thinking, you know, it was like a mansion really.
On a Christmas, the doctor, whoever's on duty, would always come up and carve the turkey.
The whole area was a playground.